Okay, we're back for the second part of our DM8 course, and here we go.
So I don't know if I opened this up before. I sort of thought I did, but let's take a look at this. This came in just recently from Fast Company. Maybe we looked at it, but this is part of, did we look at this before? I looked at it a couple times this morning. But it's just trying to help designers through this whole difficult time. And Fast Company is one of the publications that I look at, and they try in their print version to do things that are really experimental and different for a magazine, and they also keep pretty well, right here they're talking about all of these things, but this is that list there is one of the requirements, and DM2 that students have a little trouble doing, where it's a tab hanging indent and paragraph spacing. So this sort of thing right here is something that is made a certain way, and it's good to know about that still, because it crops up all over the place online and off. But this part here about this whole situation we're dealing with is in the Fast Company at their site. So we'll sort of keep track of what's going on in different areas. It's going to be different, and so we may have not as difficult a situation because we're not in such a populated, we're not in a big city. So it might be better for us, though I think most designers are going are online right now. So okay, so I was wanting to go to the, and I keep hiding these from myself, go to the project ones, and am I still sharing? Yes. So I'm going into project one.
You're still sharing, yeah.
And still good. I see it says the stop share means I'm sharing. So I just got a folder full of the work that was done in the last class, and at this week in the class. Actually, these may have been turned in the second class, but ours, we had some sort of a what would you call it? Our first class was sort of abstract. Okay, so I wanted to show both of these because most of these were done in, it's hard to tell what they were done in because they were turned in as PDFs, but this one is a Word file, and so that you can come up with a good layout and good design in a Word file that looks kind of like it's you know, that you might have done it in InDesign or something like that. One of the things I probably would have done is to get this all down just a little bit more. So when you're thinking about a single page, you're sort of thinking about, and I'm looking around the room to see if I have a mat board, but when you're using a mat board, it usually has the narrowness is on the sides, and the big depth is on the bottom, and the medium depth is on the top. So this would probably come down about an inch, and then or maybe a half inch, something like that, to look its best on the page. Or it might have wider margins on the side, so it comes down further so that you don't have a big space below. And this is done really nicely with extra paragraph spacing so that you can see the sections. So you would want to either use paragraph space or after the first paragraph, a first line indent, but not ever a first line indent on the first paragraph. So that's something that we looked at in DM2 quite a bit, but this then when you look at this one, you can see that the PDF, the type feels a little large. So default type usually in Word is 12 point, which is about a point to 2 points larger than what is used in really everything else. So you would want to have a letting ruler, some way of measuring actual real type, and be able to hold it up to the type and see what is really happening in a professionally produced publication with type. So that's something that you want to strive for, is a certain standard that's a kind of a given and established standard before you deliberately decide on something else. So you want to know, just take a look at this one now. This one, the Word file I didn't bring in, but she did this in Word as well. So depending on what you're talking about and what your, let's see if I can just, oops, I didn't see that. Okay. But depending on what you're saying, making the sections of what you're talking about. So when we were looking at the instructions for the project, there were several different areas, but you have quite a bit of freedom to sort of break that down into areas that may include each other, or you might want to ignore a certain area altogether because the main one that you're interested in is so important. So this one talks about her her interests and her skills and what she enjoys, and yeah, so you sort of get a persona here. So you want to look at the different points that you want to raise and make about yourself in this process. So I decided not to put these all into, I could put them all into Canvas, but I think that just seeing them once, I'd rather you go on and start inventing your own, but just seeing these one time. So Renee had a really good thing going with her representation of her name and her company. So very strong look and feel about the company, and then picking a kind of color that also has a certain look to it that sort of matches what's going on here. So containing your page in a way that looks like you. Now, others of you wouldn't, this wouldn't be your look at all, but thinking about how you can take that rectangle of a page and turn it into a domain that's all yours, and it's all about you. So, and this one was very interesting, the next one, because while it works really well, Jennifer is really into a lot of very ornate kinds of, she can make all kinds of things, and so jewelry and all sorts of stuff. And so this is this feels very modern or very spare. It looks like a designer, but it doesn't look like exactly what she does. To notice here, right here, what's happening right at the last two lines here. What happened there? Can anybody say why that looks like that?
The it, it looks like the letting changes.
That's right.
Yeah. What happened? Why did that happen?
You have to remind me because it just happened to me the other day and I forgot how to fix it.
Right
It's a
after
really easy fix.
you have to hit a carriage return right here.
Oh,
Yeah.
so simple, it's genius.
You just have to hit that Pilcrow. Yeah, the Pilcrow. Does everybody know what a Pilcrow is? Usually in my classes, people know what a Pilcrow is.
Starter
Yeah,
in a paragraph, right?
yeah. So let's just get Pilcrow. So a lot of people in the world know what a Pilcrow is. It's probably the single most tattooed piece of, and this is just a Pilcrow. Just
So
a
they
little side.
probably just call it the paragraph symbol.
The paragraph symbol is also called that, and I've been looking up a way to make it on the phone, and I've gotten into all sorts of lawyer sites where there's a new line or a Pilcrow. It's really hard to get, so they provide you with one that you can copy into your text in order to your legal documents on the phone to make a Pilcrow. So that's just a little side tip. So Pilcrow. Meanwhile, back at How to Be an Artist, so that would be a Pilcrow that would be a paragraph return at the end there would make that happen. But this page has it has a lot to be, or well, I was going to say a lot to be said for it, but I realize that's kind of the opposite. So that space is about right. It's enough, but not too. It's not quite too much. So there's such a thing as too much white space or too much white space in the wrong place. But that one seems to work. Now this has white space that is really nice. This is like sky, like you can see forever. And picking a font like that to start off with gives it character right away, and probably would steer clear of quite such a deep indent for the first line. It gives it a certain look, but it looks almost like a mistake. So I'd probably make it half that much so that you know where the first line is, but it doesn't have a sudden big white space. And so she has five paragraphs, and each one could address a topic. And she did a really excellent book in the DM8 class, and she kind of wanted to continue with book design was one of the things that she wanted to work on. So this is so make your page beautiful. And I can't remember what this is. So this looks a little bit like it's out of a technical manual, and it does convey information that's pretty good. The bottom of it looks like it misaligns a little bit, so work on alignment. And each of these paragraphs should maybe have a way of identifying itself. And if you're going to be using serif type in your body copy, find out about old style figures so that you'd want to be using old style figures within your text. So old style figures or small caps. And then you can look online about small caps, and there are several type experts who are very opinionated about small caps. And so you want to get a sense of the attitude that's out there, that you want to at least know about that, so that you know about small caps and old style figures. So that's old style figures are usually called OSF, and they're small caps and old style figures are siblings. So they travel together in a separate font that is redrawn for their own look and feel within the regular font, which has the other characters, and then these are the liner numbers that are in with the regular type. But for now, if you're going to do numbers in your project, find a typeface that has small caps in it, because true small caps are not just regular caps shortened down. They're redrawn caps that have the same weight, only they're smaller, same weight as the rest of the type. And experts recognize those. I know that some of you have seen the cartoon that I showed. No, it's not a cartoon. It's pretty funny though. A talk about small caps, and they point to Chuck E. Cheese as a violator of the small caps rule. So anyway, you're going to go on here. So this starts to give you a picture of what you might consider doing. So you would probably want to use, if you're going to use a sans serif for your body text, you might think about whether it's Avenir or Futura or Helvetica or Arial or something like that. So you would be looking at that, and if you have a bulleted list, you would want to make sure that this space between the bullet and the yoo-hoo type is a little bit more together. So you want to look at some real sources. Overall, this has a nice look to it. The main problem is that artists did not include their name. So you want to remember your name. And this really strong alignment that's happening right here, really strong, goes up here, and then this is kind of a quasi, I'm almost there, but I'm not quite there yet, heading that could go here. And these two are so close together that they're not clearly different. So contrast speaks with a voice in type. So you can get a real feeling for what the words are saying just by the way they look. But overall, this sits really nicely on the page, and you want to make sure that you don't have widows in the type if you can help it. So you can see that a widow is there because it's one word at the end of a paragraph hanging out there on its lonesome, and you want to be able to go in and pull it in because you know how to select the page paragraphs and tighten the tracking just a smidge or rewrite it. Okay, so this one is this is better, the spacing right here for this indentation right here is good in a way because it gives a little relief from the density that's up here. So you get a little breather here that kind of throws the attention on these 3 points that, since they're 1, 2, 3, it looks like they're important, 3 important points. You can also make things like DM and PDF small caps, CSUND small caps. And so this Marco planned to go to CSUMB and did so. So he sort of set up My grandson Marco also went through the classes at Cabrillo and went to CSUMB and is now working in the field doing web pages and all kinds of things like that for GoPro kind of projection system place. So he's working with the print and the web design. But at CSUMB, they have a final year that's their year of doing actual real job for somebody who needs the work. So they find jobs for all their students in the the senior year before they get their bachelor's degree. So this is just before Marco Pena took off for that program, and I haven't had a chance to talk with him since. I need to make a point of it. And so Paige was working working at school with marketing, I believe, at the time that this was done. And so she had a nice succinct little page here. And I would probably go smaller on the body text and maybe just a little bit so that it's almost too, it's in competition with the headings here. So not making it really small, but maybe 1 point smaller would just do it. So that's something to think about. Also, there isn't any real reason to break this line here. I don't think I'm requiring to do an indent, but with the heading like that and smaller type and a space between the sections, you can keep the alignment strong so that you don't have a lot of in and out going on. So this has a really nice beginning and overall look, but it starts to get just a little bit, could be more aligned there, and I think that would make a big difference. Sometimes when you just do a little thing to the page, if you have a thought or kind of an inclination that, oh, if I just do this little thing, it might be better, trust yourself and follow up and see what it looks like so that you can, we keep training ourselves to see more each time that we do a project or a job. So I look back on things that I've done in the past and all of the little errors that I wouldn't do now kind of pop out. You know, things I did 15 years ago or something. There aren't many, but there are some. So this one is a really nice finish. Now this has the sans serif type, that a good one for body copy. It could do with a teeny bit more leading, but it's pretty good. This feels looser than this because this has a lot of caps in it, and it's just interesting what happens. They look kind of like this one could have looked looser and lighter, and you start to look heavier. And sometimes the reason those things happen is hard to figure out. But if these were small caps, and almost no sans serifs make small caps. If you want small caps, say in Futura, you have to buy them. Usually they don't come too small caps. Don't often come with a sans serif typeface. So if you...
Beth, are you there?
Huh?
I don't hear you. Hello, Beth.
Beth? I'm not being heard?
I can hear you.
I hear Beth.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Can other people hear Beth? Because I can't hear her.
I can hear Beth.
Oh,
I
we
can
can
hear
hear her.
Yeah.
Beth, you're muted or something. Hello, Beth.
I don't
Beth.
think so.
Beth.
Here, Beth.
Hello, Beth.
Yeah,
I don't
hi.
think she knows that we can't hear her.
But they're saying that they can.
Yeah, I can hear her.
They can all hear me.
Oh, it's my speaker, perhaps.
You're the one who can't hear me. Did you brush your speaker?
Mhm.
That'll happen. Okay, can you hear me now? No, I can't hear you.
Yeah, you're muted, John.
Yeah, now
John,
you're
you're
muted, John.
muted.
Yeah, I can hear John.
You can hear John?
No, I think
can't.
he's
Oh, no,
muted.
you can hear me now.
Yeah.
I think I had a speaker problem because you dropped out for a little bit there, Beth, for me.
Maybe
Sorry.
you've got a little short in your speaker.
Yeah, it was just a speaker thing. I'm sorry. So if you could just repeat what you just said a minute ago, that would be great for the recording because I don't think it picked it up.
Okay, so what I was saying was that these 4 paragraphs are set with the same, and saying that the sans serif that's used is a good text sans serif. It could still use a tiny bit more leading and be just a little bit smaller. That's often the problem. I mean, the really, really tiny amount. But when you get to the paragraph that has the all caps in it, your mind makes this type larger even though it isn't, and just interesting to see what that does. And then I said that if you made those small caps, it would be very difficult because almost no sans serif type faces have small caps as a stock item in their font set. They usually have to be purchased. So if, for instance, when I got a Futura years ago, I had to buy these small caps because they're redrawn. It's a whole other member of the family that doesn't come automatically with the typeface, and making them smaller regular caps, they look thready and dumb if you do that. But if you use all caps, which is the only option right here, they do this interesting thing where it suddenly makes this paragraph look more pronounced or important. And yeah, so that's kind of what I was saying. But this whole page is working really nicely. So it's our job when we make a page to take the reader's eye around on the page by sort of leading it on a path. And we looked at some of the others that were a little bit more technical. This one needs to be because it's so strict in alignment, that if the alignment is consistent down through here, it flows a little bit better. So those are the kinds of things you want to be looking at as you're doing your own work in this particular case, and so that you can apply it to everything. So you want to just be doing that all the time, basically, is to make that, make your type speak and look really consistent. And next, I had something on my list here. Let's see what I had for you here. Oh gosh. Let's go over to Canvas. I thought I had it up here already, but we'll just do this. Well, that's in because you're already in. So going back to week 1, let's go in and look at the discussion. So each week has a discussion, and that's going to be a Canvas discussion that you would reflect on the topic and share something that ideas, and this one is finding 3 online portfolio examples and describe what works and what doesn't. So you'd show the link and say what you think about it. And this is, as it says, this is just help you think about real possibilities for presenting your own work. When you look at other work and you say, no, that's not me, then it strengthens your way of thinking about what your own way of doing things would be. So getting lots of examples and viewing different ways of presentation for designers can build up your own sense of what exactly you're about in terms of design. And each of you is going to have a little bit, like we saw in the project pages, everybody has a really different approach. And each one of you has something like that, that has personality and a sense of who you are, so that you can convey that in certain ways, so that the portfolio possibilities doesn't have to be about typography. It can be about the whole look. So something that you're thinking about in general. So I would go to go to get to here. And no, sorry. Okay. So portfolios and branding. This one is a series of things. Now I got a variety here. So this one right here is he's really kind of an extreme character, but he has some very good ideas. But I'm going to click on this one, and just generally, again, you would be looking at the thing that often happens here. Really pay attention to this. Too much work. Definitely do not include more than 15 projects. Some say not more than 5. And so it's really, and when you start off, when you have like a whole horde of things on one page, it doesn't help the viewer see the good stuff. So you have to be the one who decides who's the star of the show and bring them forward so that they engage with the viewer and give you you can spread out later on, but it's like having a really great MC who brings the whole audience on board and gets them in a groove for your work, and then you can start presenting a little bit more. But anything much larger than 15 projects you don't want to show. And then there's too little work. So like what and so you want to fill it out enough so that there's you give them a full meal. So you don't want to just give them salad. You want the viewer or whoever it is to get a well-rounded sense of who you are. And contact details. There's a lot about this in the video that I'll show bits of. We saw in one of the projects that the person writing it forgot to put their name. So that's the thing that you want to be aware of. And not being mobilely responsive if it's online. So you need to have the combination of responsive mobile design as well as print and maybe only mobile design these days. And so you would be needing to take DM60 and you'd need to take what is it, 62 responsive design. I've lost John. I can't hear John now.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. I don't think we have DM61 or 62 in the schedule anymore.
It's 60
Just
next
DM60s each semester.
Yeah. But that's the start. So you all really want to have a really solid sense of am I muted? I shouldn't be. So no captions, no context. So these captions are something that help to the viewer to understand who you did the work for, what were the things that you had to accomplish that were challenging, or the successful that you did successfully based on the job, and what was your role. And so if you were just a supporting actor, if you were just an assistant or something like that, you'd want to make that clear that you were part of a team and who the rest of the team was, and how this helped the client. So these are little things that are written, and when you do that online, you want to make sure and spell check everything. So that's after going through the 79 resumes online for the art photography candidate and seeing some of the really atrocious graphic design in some of the, and knowing that they're coming into the art division, it kind of bothered me because I thought, well, what are they seeing? So
I had a question. So, like, some of the things that I've been doing at my current job is rebranding. So, like, when I have like myself, my day job, and then I have my freelance business. And usually when I redo a chalkboard, I do like a before and after. But when you're doing like, layout design and stuff, and you're redesigning something, do you put a before in? Like, is that, or do you just say I redesigned this campaign?
I would do that. I think that that's a really helpful one, and the longer interview that's on here that's really good about portfolios. It seems to me they say that. What was accomplished?
Okay.
So if your goal is to rebrand somebody, and we'll be looking at Hilti later on, which was a very weird thing that happened.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, so the knowing what it was before, also you can go back and historically maybe even collect more examples of the brand. So when I was showing the 3 brands that I just found today accidentally, and they look like they came from the same person the same afternoon, sort of. It's looking at those differences and seeing why you would change and what the new brand does for somebody. And usually when you change a brand, like Nike's never really changed their brand. They're using the one that they underpaid that woman 4 years ago. They're still using it, I think. That is, so yeah, so you want to look at why people would change their brands and make that a specialty. So that would be something that if you've done it more than once, to show how the business was improved, at least in terms of their attitude towards themselves, by having the new mark, that they're pleased with it. They put it on their clothes and signage and stuff like that. So those are all things that you'd want to include to make it real clear about what's going on with
Okay.
how it changed and how it may be different. So I'm going to skip this guy because he's really he's a little bit speedy. But this right here, I'm going to skip through it, but it's a kind of long for looking at it all in class. But I just want you to. I'm going to skip through a few things and try not to make it too choppy. But here, there we go.
Beth, can you turn that up?
I can't. I don't know if there's a. No, I don't. I've got my. I'm sorry about that. So actually, you should start at the beginning here. I've got my sound over it.
Yeah, I think Zoom's canceling out your speaker because I can't hear it.
Okay.
It's all gibberish to me.
Okay.
I think it thinks it's feedback, so it's cutting it out.
All right. I wonder how I'd fix that. Well, this one is important to look at on your own. And they talk about exactly how many things to put in. These two folks are really, really experts. This is in here because it's the best I've heard so far on how to they show a lot of portfolios, and it would be nice to be able to show it here.
Beth, is the link to that posted somewhere where the students can look at it?
It's right on the let's go back here to right here. So when we close the tabs and we go to, whoops, didn't mean to go all the way out. And I don't have my Canvas, my Canvas link should be.
Maybe that could be posted in Canvas or in the forum.
It is posted in Canvas.
Oh, it is posted.
That's
Okay, well then they can watch it
Yes,
offline. Yeah.
I'm going back to show you where that is. So yeah, this is an important one to get into. So and I should really always have that up for class. But so this is so this is one of the main ones I was going to show today in class. And it is in portfolios and branding in our week 1 research module. And it is the one that is about, it's right here. So, wait a minute, excuse me now. It's this one right here. They're all good. I mean, they were chosen because they're all good. I wouldn't have put anything that's like a dog in there. Oh, sorry. Dogs are wonderful. That's a bad expression. Like a, yeah, like a throwaway thing. This would be, these are all important. And this one is part 1. And so these two talk for quite a while, but it's the information about how many pieces to put in, what to put with your pieces, what to write and show, goes with the last one that the 5 graphic design portfolio mistakes that goes with that one. This is goes further, so it's a pretty long piece. It's sure it says how long it goes here, but that kind of tells you. So I'm trying to see how long it is. So it's 30 minutes. And so I think it was kind of quiet when I heard it too, but it was worth getting in and listening. Okay. Yeah, so they're talking about how you identify things, and that was what the first video back here was about. That was here, and this one was just he has good things to say, but he's got an interesting delivery, and so this one, yeah, you might have to lean in a little bit. So this one is the value of the good logo. So this is kind of leading into our next topic. And we looked at those 3 logos earlier, but so this is something, Julie, that you are involved with, this rebranding and considering how that logo can make a difference for the company. And so those are, and some of them you have to, they want them to be in motion. So you need to have a sense of animation, animating either typography or just animation in general. How can you make those things? So this one is very strongly animated. So thinking about those skills that you might need to enhance. We're not going to have our animation class next semester, unfortunately. Cabrillo is scaling down big time, so if you see a class that you want, get it now, because I don't know what's going to happen in the future. We're really struggling. The whole budget thing is challenging. So this is, again, an animated piece. So these talk about what the logo, the design did for the client. And the next piece is about Hilti. So Hilti is a brand that when you look online for Hilti, you only see it one way, but for a period of time, last time we taught the class, their new brand was everywhere. It was in videos, it was in all over the place. And so what the new brand looked like is this. So this is very, very hard to find this online. If you ask for Hilti online and ask for images, it only shows up once. So they decided, so this is their brief, the target audience, and their research. This might disappear too, because they they spent, I don't know how many millions making the new brand. Actually, I think going for it, and you don't get the story of how it cost a lot to rebrand, but they didn't adopt it, and they went back to their old brand. And so this was the new uh, this was the new job here, the target audience, the research that they did, and this was the new brand that they were going to do, and they showed how it fit together and how it would work in place. So this was a whole bunch of people worked very hard on this, and this, like any brand, it started off with a lot of people drawing and sketching and looking at these are all attachment systems, drills and fasteners and bolt, shooters. I don't know the terms of all those. But then they got more and more refined, and how can we make this? They said this is just working like beautifully. They got it, all on their stationery and on their T-shirts and all of that kind of thing. So it went really far, and it's in videos. So these are videos that you can watch about the whole process of the branding. And I don't know how long these are going to be on, because it seems like there's been a really concerted effort to keep this stage of their company uh, out of the public eye, and so they have all of this, the video that's touting the new brand and how wonderful it is. And all they do. And so all of this advertising would be your job, getting the videos, bringing all of the dance, the dancers. So all this stuff was going on. Okay, so that's that. There's lots and lots of how it would appear. So then when we go back to now, what shows up when you look up Hilti is the brand that they kept. This is the brand that they had, and then they went to that amazing amount of work that you just saw to change it. And this is the brand that they kept. So I'm going to say, okay, sure, fine. And this is the agency. Yeah, so when you go to Hilti images, nowhere is that brand. So images, you go down. So you're seeing, remember all of the effort that you saw for that it got put on a lot of things. It got put on T-shirts, it got used, but then they did not end up using it. So I looked and looked to see if it would be in here, and I think maybe at the very end there might have been one, but the new one, the one that they put so much effort into didn't go in there. So feel comfortable about changing your brand. If you decide that you want a different look and you think it's really important, go for it. And then if it turns out not to be quite what you hoped for, then just go back to whatever it was you did before. So branding is a big issue. And this is a PDF that oh, I don't want to open that. I just want to look at it. Cancel. Look at it. Maybe I can't look at it now anymore. They've got a filthy blocker on it.
Yeah, it seems like maybe the connection is not that. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, wait, is
So
that? Oh, you quit.
You can usually see this, and let's see if there's anything else that you need to look at in here. Okay, so we'll stop sharing for now, and I had something else I wanted to look at. Yes, so I wanted to look at some logos and marks that people do, and I think I'm probably going to go back to sharing, but first I want to talk about this. Today I was thinking about stamps. I don't know why it occurred to me. I guess it was maybe thinking about the attempt to get rid of the post office so that it can be taken over by somebody who might not deliver the votes. No,
They can't. They can't. They cannot get rid of the post office. It's one of the very few functions of Congress that's actually literally spelled out in the sacred Constitution that they like so much. So they actually can't get rid of the post office. But anyway, I digress. Sorry.
Yeah, but I'm sort of a stamp nut, and so I was thinking about people who illustrate stamps, who have been the stamps. I remember I've got a stamp over here that's a scouting stamp, and I couldn't remember who had done the scouting stamp. So there's a scout with the binoculars, and so I'm going to go and just look at a couple of stamp designers and talk about them a little bit, because because I consider stamps to be kind of one of the smallest things that you would design that travels all over the place and makes a big impression on people, and is just a little way of getting out there. And I think it's possible. So Nancy Stahl was one of the first people I admired in illustration work, and because she was the first person to do Illustrator. So let's see if I can, they kind of dragged her kicking and screaming into Adobe, and forced her to learn Illustrator. And let's see, let's get her design.
Beth?
Yeah?
I don't know if you're looking at the chat, but there's a question in the chat
Oh,
from
no,
Jasmine.
I covered the chat. Yes.
Yeah, maybe. So do you see it? It says, I'm wondering if we can go over the types of projects, especially our final project, that we will be completing for this class.
Yes, we will. That is something that you can look ahead at, and we'll take a look at that. I've kind of wanted to step through it so that you're not overwhelmed with what needs to happen. but that's why we're looking at portfolios, because the final project is basically a portfolio. So looking, as you're building your portfolio, I want you to be seeing the discussion that was too low sound to show today. I want you to be aware of all of those things that have to do with your portfolio, and be starting off with your sense of yourself and what you do. So that's what project one is about, is kind of deciding the look and feel and emphasis and color and type and style that you want to present yourself with. And then that will gradually lead to the portfolio, but we will go and look at that too. I'm going to get back to that. So I've got it written down here. I won't let you down. Okay. But so I did want to get into Nancy Stahl's design. So this is a designer who went from being an illustrator using gouache to do all of these things that she does. So gouache is, she would use gouache for this style of art. So it's a wet pigment paint, like a thick watercolor that you use. So she took her gouache style, and as I said, was kind of dragged into Adobe to learn Illustrator in the late 80s. And she became like the main kind of proponent of Illustrator. It just, to her, it seemed like, why should I learn this thing? But before, she was having to do ads where if somebody didn't like something, that she would have to go in and repaint it, because that's what you do with gouache. So I did want you to see kind of how she shows her work. And she puts more than a couple of things on the page. So I'm going to go back here to the other stamp artist I like. So Nancy Stahl has done the frog stamps and all kinds of things. So you can take a look at her work. And then Craig, and these are California people, I believe, but maybe she's from New York. Craig Fraser's from Mill Valley, and he does, some of the things that he does are cartoons, so they're visual instances. So he's done this, and just to see how this page goes in terms of the portfolio, the look and feel of your portfolio. So
I can't see your screen.
oh, okay. Oh, sorry. I didn't realize I'd unshared. Okay. So this is Craig Fraser. He's another stamp designer and illustrator and animator, and so labels and everything that you might want to design. So in terms of your own portfolio, you'd be showing off your best work in a particular area based on the very clear kind of guidelines that were in that video that we couldn't hear. So if you're listening to that independently, that's really important to know, because it's people who hire designers talking about what they look for in a designer. So you would want to be paying close attention to that in terms of how you do your own portfolio. And so let's see about going back to let me get into Canvas here. All right. So what we're doing with our own portfolios, and I thought I had my little link to Canvas again here, but no, I closed it somehow. We'll have to go in like this. All right. And then we have to go to our course. I think I have to leave student view here. So we're going through these various stages: collateral, what goes in it, content, and these are all not open right now. So I haven't actually posted the final project. I don't know if it would be in here.
So Beth, we should probably mention that you're not looking at what the student would see. You're looking at the teacher view. So
Yeah,
they're
I'm
not going to
looking
see
at
all these canceled projects that aren't showing.
These aren't available, so I was going to open them up later on. What I wanted to do was to start the process of seeing how a portfolio should be built and what should be in it, and then don't know if I have the many of the finals in here or not. They were mostly physical, and we're not going to be doing a physical portfolio exactly. So we're going to be doing components of a portfolio. So remember if we have some examples in here of project 3. No. Yeah, I didn't gather final portfolios for today, so I will post some and then let you know if they're up. So I just wanted to, we were kind of just planning on getting through the first 3 weeks and getting things going. But, and my main thing is for you to see the components of portfolios that are shown in the best examples online. So that's part of what we're doing. And so in the syllabus, there's building from this point where you're doing research and doing a prospectus on how you would be putting your portfolio together. And these are actually, I guess, yeah, so I will have to bring that on board and open some of those pages for that. But I really would like for you to be focusing on what you want to do and how you want to represent yourself and kind of starting off with a sense of which 5 pieces you want to put out there. What typeface do you want to use to represent yourself? What brand or logo do you want to start to build up? So that would go into the projected projections in project 1, where you're looking at what sort of looking at the symbols, the colors, the kind of the foundation of what you're going to be creating, and then looking at the kinds of projects that you would be showing and how many you'd show and where you'd show them. And so those are in the videos that I would like you to be looking at, that kind of professional level. And then I will get together some of the parts of the pieces that have to do with the final. So I didn't take a picture of things that were physical because the class was going to be in a classroom this time too. And so we'll have to take a look at that a little bit later. So focus on the essence of the elements that you want to represent you as described in project 1 and in the modules, in the portfolios and branding module here, and look at the one that we can look at this part right here so that you can kind of get a sense of what you should be thinking about concentrating on for your portfolio based on your plan for representing a certain look and feel in project 1, and then showing off your design skills in project 1 to make the page look as good as the things that we were looking at that I showed earlier. So that's the first task, and then I will go and find some good examples of final portfolios for the class from the last class. Okay. So let me just look here. So those are, I also wanted to show, as long as we're here, is I've got something over here. So this is, so I'm sharing, Jessica Hish is somebody else to look at in terms of, as you're thinking about your logo. So we're, at this point, we're thinking about the pieces that go together for showing the work. So our look and feel, our type, our brand, our logo. And so these were all some that Jessica Hish, and I'm not sure if I have this in, I'll put these in our links too, but it's on the same lines as the Hilti thing, only these folks all wanted to change their look and feel of their brand. And so she goes into detail about how she did each one of these before and after. So you can go in and see what she did to make this look like this. And you're also tuning your, fine-tuning your eye to look at these two things and see that there is a difference. So if at first glance those don't look any different, then that means that you probably want to keep training your eyes so that you can see that they are different. Because you may be the one who's in charge of making the modifications that the company needs to look better. So these were the old ones, and then these are the new ones. And some of them went even further. So I have, of course, the series of MailChimp from here to what it is now, and that I was going to show this time, but I didn't put it on top, so I'll have to send that out. But being familiar enough with type and typography and all these kinds of symbols so that you would be doing something like this. So it's not usually a one-off thing. It's not a quick thing. It's something where you study and think about the process. And so the master class here is something that Jessica Hish teaches, and because she specializes, excuse me, specializes in logos and type and those kinds of things, she features that in her portfolio. So that would be again another thing that you want to look at in terms of what it is you feel strongest about, and aim for giving that a star bill in your portfolio so that it really stands out. And in your plan for project one, to state that so that we know, we as your teachers know what your direction is going to be and what you want to focus on. So that's very helpful for starting off with the first project. So this one,
Beth, do you want to take a break soon, or are you almost through with this section?
yeah, we don't have much farther to go.
Oh, so we could just go and then end and not take another break?
Well, we could take it, I could go look for some final projects while you guys are taking a break, but I hadn't really focused on gathering those up yet. So what do you think, John? What does everybody think?
I don't know, let's open it up. I mean, we don't have to go a full 3 hours, and we've already gone quite a ways, so.
Yeah, we've only got about like 30 minutes left, give or take.
Well, there you go. Thank you for keeping track. Yeah, well, we might just go a little bit. Let me just check one thing.
I think if we're gonna go a lot longer, we should take a break. Otherwise, we should just power through and end, because it's yeah.
Yeah, so I did want to talk a little bit more about the kinds of things that go in your portfolio, and then I think that we can probably wrap up, and then I will go track down the work on the question about the final finished portfolios. And
Well, then maybe we should take a 10-minute break, because it sounds like you want to take it another half hour, and that would be our 3 hours.
I'm going to track those down after class.
Oh, okay, sorry. So maybe we shouldn't take a break and just end it soon.
I
Okay.
have to search those
Okay.
out. But
Then let's just go through and end it soon. What
I
do you think?
have a little more to say here.
Okay.
Because Jessica Hish does represent an area of design that is focused on labels and brands and type for books and signage and all that kind of thing. So she's a really good person to know about. So you're inclined that way, and I know a couple of you are, having, seeing more of that kind of thing to sort of enrich what you're already doing, just to see if there are some things that you could apply in terms of look and feel or sense of detail or that kind of thing. So this does go on a bit. I mean, she's got a career here going. So knowing about all these things is good. And you could also go take a look at Marianne Banshee's, her TED Talk, or take a look at her sense of intricate design. So this is a TED Talk that I'm mainly just showing you a couple of seconds of it so that you have time to write down her name if you didn't know it before. So you, and that's not Annie Leibovitz, but her portfolio would be interesting too. So this is Marianne Banshee's, and I'm going to just go a little bit. No, actually, sorry guys. I'm going to go back a little ways here. So she talks about her designs, and it's a lot of TED Talk in here. So I'm going to look at images. So she does illustrations that are very, very intricate, involving type and pattern and a lot of other things. So Marianne Banshee's, BANTJES, and go take a look at the kinds of things she does and how she talks about it. She's kind of a someplace up in southwestern Canada on an island, working very much in a kind of a secluded situation. So she's got a lot of ideas that have been brewing within that context, and so she has some interesting things to show. But again, this for building up your project one, I do want you to look at these portfolio tips right here, the part one. There is a part two that I haven't watched, but that might be something that you would be, it might be worthwhile to see that too. So I haven't watched that one, but that would be a continuation of this. So I want you all to hear from people who are hiring and have very clear opinions about how designers should present their work that makes a difference. And I will then get some examples of the final ones that you can apply your ideas that you're doing in your project one to start working towards that. And we'll be opening up modules as we go along and getting them ready. So I think that's probably it. There's something let me just take a peek over here and see if Well, the next thing you're going to be working on is the resume. So you're thinking about that too. And there's another spot that is called Design Milk. That is a design blog about interior design and modern design. But that probably is, yeah. So there's some good things to look at for. I'm going to open this one up to see what this is. Okay, so this is one of the things that I provided, which is just a basic styles format for a resume. So if you don't know how to do a hanging indent, tab, and paragraph spacing, this is showing how that happens, but the resume doesn't come until later. We'll be demonstrating this in class based on the kinds of things that you decide to put in your resume, then how it's going to look and what form it's going to take. So this is going to be helpful for that. And this is basically what I gathered on the design portfolios that you do have in your in Canvas. Okay. So so the resume is going to be part of what you do as well. And that it, and then kind of circling back around to the beginning, I think we're going to get this link from Julia to go see her video of the webinar that was today. So that was something else I wanted you to be able to get to see. And if John, I think she's going to send us the link to that, right?
I'm assuming she will. I'm assuming she recorded it, and I'm assuming she'll send out the link, but I haven't gotten it from her yet.
Okay.
If she did.
We'll send it to you as soon as we get it from her. And then that will be a good thing to look at, because you can see her topics here relate to something that we're all going to be doing. But since we're doing it in a context that's very different from anything designers have had to deal with, or anybody working has had to deal with for decades or ever. So we're in this new place where we need to kind of tailor our approach to the conditions that are happening now. And the main one is that physical portfolios, like we got from the class last semester or last year, are going to be less important than the digital portfolio that you're going to have. And so we need to work on a combination of ingredients for those portfolios. And so I'll be thinking very strongly about that for next time between now and then, and send out anything that may be helpful to you at this point. But now focus on what your goals are and how you're going to what you plan to be showing in your portfolio, and what you're going to need to create based on the list of things that they're in the project one description. So if you need those things, then those are the things you'd want to focus on for your portfolio. If you already have them, then you would be talking about how you need to revise them or redesign them. And so that John and I can get a clear idea of where you are now, what you hope to do, and what you need for, between now and the end of the class to finish what you want to do. So I think I don't have a giant screen that I need some fabulous screen that the button says bye-bye.
Oh, I don't think you need to do that, but you can
I
stop
want
sharing so
one.
we can
I
see the
want
big.
one.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody will design the screen, the bye-bye screen for DM8.
Well, you could make that an extra credit project.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it sounds like maybe we're winding up. Are there any like questions before we wind up? Questions from those who are muted or unmuted?
Beth, you said something in the beginning about emailing project one. Do you want us to email it, or are we just turning it in on Canvas?
Well, John, I haven't really done a class on Canvas, a full class on Canvas where people turn in. We did a physical turn in. So what's your experience, John, with that, and students? What?
I haven't used Canvas in terms of having projects turned in. So I know it's pretty easy. The advantage of having students turn it on Canvas is that we would both have access to it.
Right.
If it's emailed, they would have to make sure they email both of us, and sometimes people get a little
Right.
lazy
Yeah,
with emailing both of us, I noticed. So
Sophia, I think that would be good to turn it into Canvas, and I don't know if I've set that up, but John and I will set that up for turning it into
I don't
Canvas.
think we have to set anything up. I think they can already do it. Have you
Okay.
tried?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as it's an assignment, it should have a submit button.
Yeah. So I would say, Beth, it's probably just as good or better that they turn it in on Canvas than email. I mean, either would work. If you email, just email it to both of us.
Yeah.
And
Now let's do Canvas.
Beth, do you want to open up your Canvas and make sure you can get it? If it was, did somebody already send it in Canvas? Did you, Sophia, send it in
No,
Canvas?
it hasn't been set. We need to set it in
Okay,
Canvas.
okay.
That's
Okay,
what
well-
we're talking about now. It's very Sophia, thank you. That's pretty important. So yeah, let's submit to Canvas, and while you're writing, we'll be getting that spot ready for you to turn in, and we'll also send out an email with any other things to do. But I do, if it's done in InDesign or Word, I want it saved as a PDF, and in InDesign, package it and package it and yeah. So that would, so that I have and zip it so it's smaller, so it doesn't take so long. So the packaging will make sure that I can open it in I've got just a slightly older version of InDesign that it's, CC18 or something here, and a lot of you have a newer one, so it would have to be packaged so that I have an earlier version. If you're using InDesign, and then if you're using Word, just in a folder with the Word file and the PDF file, and I'll send out a notice about that again so that it's clear, and then put that in our module too. So thank you for that. That will make things easier.
Okay, Beth.
Yes.
Okay, so you want us to turn in the whole package to you?
I want you to
Oh,
turn
like on
in
Canvas?
the package. So I can't look at it, or I can't grade it until I have I need to have the well.
Yeah, it's just I'm just asking because I have been like turning in assignments for my other classes, and it only like lets me select like files, individual files.
Okay.
So it won't let me like turn in like a whole folder. So that's why I was
All
like,
right. Yes,
is there
so
like
that is a
another,
consideration
does
because
anyone else know about it?
part of what we're doing is learning to use InDesign and or Word to make the things like a resume and such, so that I guess that's why I was thinking that turning it in with the email. But
Yeah.
I,
So
Uh,
why don't we just say this? If you have trouble turning in Canvas, just email it and email it to both of us.
you
Okay.
can send the whole package of the artwork. You just have to compress it first, and then
yeah, that's what I was saying, that you need to zip
then
it.
you can
compress
select
it.
that.
Yeah, if you're on a Mac, if you just right click on any file, there's an option to compress. It'll turn into a zip file. So you should always do that before you email something because it makes it smaller.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Okay.
I don't know what the option is on Windows. I'm assuming Windows does an automatic zip somehow, but
Yeah, you can do the same thing. I think it's either it's called something different, but
yeah, on the Mac you just right click and say compress.
It's the same thing on Windows.
And some people call it zip.
says something else, something that use Windows.
Yeah, because it would be good to be able to help you use the tools efficiently so that you can, it's, yeah.
And I think I should test this before I say this, but I think on the Mac you can just put all the if you have multiple files to turn in, you can put them in a folder and then compress the folder as
Yeah.
you have one zip file, and that way you could more
Right.
easily upload it or email it.
Right, and I have stuff at Expander here that I got especially for that. So when I get a file that is in the compressed form, then I just expand it, and then all of the content come out. So let's do it that way, and then because then I would like to have all of what you're doing so that I can help you with all the stages of it and the construction of the file as well as the final look of the file.
on a just to share on a PC, you can also right click, but instead you go to send to and then compressed.
Cool, thank you, Julie. That's good to
Okay,
know.
thank you, Julie.
Finally, the work PC came in handy.
And then I right click on the folder and it says compress and the name of the folder and on a Mac. That's how it looks. And so you get everything in the folder and right click on it and compress it. And then it should all.
Then you have one zip archive, easy,
Yeah,
easy to move around.
Yeah.
And you should be able to turn in a zip archive through Canvas, I believe.
And that's kind of important because if you're going to be working between a client someplace like San Francisco, New York, wherever, and they have their designers, you need to be able to compress files to send in a lot of cases. So that's just something that we do anyway in classes for the part of it is about constructing things.
So I'm thinking we should probably wrap this up.
Yes.
And what I will, as you probably already realized, there are two things that instructors do usually with these Zoom files. They either save them to the Zoom cloud or they save them to YouTube. I've just been putting them on YouTube. It's actually easier to put them on the Zoom cloud, but I have a little more control with YouTube. So it takes a few hours because they get processed on my computer and then I upload them to YouTube, and that the upload process to YouTube takes a little while for video files. So usually takes several hours before they'll be available to you. But later on this evening, I'll email out the link to these video files for everybody to have.
Good, and I'll be letting you know where to find the examples of the final projects. Some of them some of them are, I have the physical part that I don't have, but I can show you the digital part.
Well, if there's no more questions, I think we'll end.
Okay, and I work on my farewell screen. Somebody okay?
Okay, and I'll work on these files and get them up. All right, everybody, thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Stay safe,
Thank you.
shelter in place,
Yes.
and have fun. All right?
Thank you.
Stay
You
hydrated.
too.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.